Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am joined here, as always, by the man who, if he ever had to tackle Derrick Henry, he would certainly make a business decision. Kyle, how are you doing?
Yeah, that business decision would be not tackling him, but I am good overall.
Yes.
How are you doing?
Yes, also doing well. We have a lot to talk about this week. It should be an interesting one. We have maybe our biggest point spread of the week, and one game is 17.5. Should mention, I think at the top of the show, hey, if you guys like audio-only versions of podcasts, anywhere you get your podcast, that is available. Also should mention, I think we're probably going to have Sad Kyle this episode.
Yeah, been a little bit of a rough 24 hours, but we still got 2 games to come back. We're okay.
Yes, of course. That's Kyle alluding to the Red Sox falling down 3-2 in the ALCS. But we're not going to talk baseball. We have a lot of football to talk about. And as always on these recap shows, we're going to start off with the Monday night game. And Kyle, this was a wild Monday night game.
Yes, it was. And I have a hot take for you.
Okay.
I know you love my hot take, so I'm coming in scorching here to start the show. I believe Derrick Henry might be the best athlete to ever play football.
Okay, interesting. Go on.
So, I mean, this guy, I think when in terms of athletes, now I don't know, obviously, it's way too early to tell if he's the best running back or anything like that. He's still got a lot of years left, and his numbers, even like this generation, don't stack up with Adrian Peterson, LaDainian Tomlinson, that kind of tier. But obviously, he's getting there. He's going to have another, it looks like, bearing everything's healthy, another 300-plus carry season, another 2,000-yard season. He's got 43 touchdowns over his last 37 games, which is absurd in the passing league that we're in today. And, I mean, just straight up, this guy is a defensive end who's the fastest football player on the field almost at all times. He just burst through that hole in that game and ran past everybody and outran everybody. It was insane that he was able to do that. It's insane that he's able to do that as big of a human being as he is. I think when you talk about his athleticism, it has to be on that Michael Phelps, LeBron James, insane athleticism tier.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely I remember when I went to the Pro Bowl a couple years back and he was there and he just looked different. I mean, you have Pro Bowlers, these, great football players, and he just physically is I guess I feel like his measurables don't do him justice. You see him in person, he just looks like a mammoth of a human.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and it's not even on top of that. It's also because he's the strongest, he's the fastest person on the field at all times, it seems like. It's insane what he is. And, I mean, he basically won in this game because the passing game was not doing much for Tennessee to start this game. It got a little better at the end, but overall, it wasn't a great day for Tannehill and company. And this guy was just churning out yards for Tennessee, keeping them in this game. Yeah, just a fantastic game from him. And then, Tennessee's defense didn't look great, but they got the big stop at the end.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, this was I guess we should probably talk about the actual game itself a little bit more. I mean, obviously the headline is Henry. Actually, no, I want to stick with Henry for a second because I've always said that I felt like Marshawn Lynch is the greatest running back I've seen, just the way he played. I might have to change that. It might be Derrick Henry at this point. And again, I never saw Barry Sanders, right? I'm younger, but it might be Derrick Henry at this point. What he's done has been incredible, especially in a passing league.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think of I didn't see Sanders either. Obviously, I would say probably I'd put Marshall Faulk and LaDainian Tomlinson in that tier of the best running backs I've ever seen. But as far as physical dominance, he just seems unmatched at times. It's just this almost unicorn style of player that, stealing the NBA term, it's almost this unicorn style of player that they built his offense around. And it works because he's absolutely insane. And he's been able to take on this workload that we just thought was never possible for running backs anymore.
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion. How many normal people do you think it would take to tackle Derrick Henry on a football field? Henry is on one end zone, and how many people would it take if we're all lined up at the 20-yard line to tackle him? I'm thinking I think 30 could do it.
30. I
Mhm.
mean, maybe 4 or 5, I would say. But I
Because he
mean,
can, I think he could, 5 normal people, he could easily just juke us
well,
out
that's
and
fair. Yeah.
yeah,
So I guess if he's like is actually trying to avoid us, that's one thing. If he's just
right.
coming straight at us, I think 5 of us could finally bring him down. But
Maybe. Yeah,
I
because
don't
that's the
know.
thing is you need a couple people to just create that initial contact, and then you need the swarm. It's incredible stuff. But yeah, big win for the Titans. I mean, this is
Yeah.
exactly what they needed. Also, we maybe talk about that final play call. I love the final play call. I think there's a lot of second guessing when something doesn't go right with the Bills trying to do a quarterback sneak there. I think they screwed it up. It looked like Josh Allen was supposed to go to his right. He ends up going to his left, which results in not working out very well. But I think as a whole, play call is fine. It just didn't work out.
Yeah, I think the only thing I was really surprised with, and I it wasn't quite hindsight for me because I was thinking it at the time and said it out loud. I guess you could ask my wife to verify it. Is that
Okay.
the only thing I thought was weird was like I rarely ever see the Bills under center like that. And I
Hmm.
was thinking, well, they're just going to do the shotgun QB sneak like that classic Cam Newton style play, and Allen's capable of doing that. And then all of a sudden he jumps under center and it kind of rushes the play a little bit. And then, like you said, it looks like he went the wrong way. He also looks like he slipped. So
Hmm.
that added to it. I mean, it wasn't the wrong decision to go for it on fourth down. I mean, that's the data backs up that is the right decision no matter what, basically.
Hmm.
It just didn't work out, credit the Titans for making a good play, but also, there's some circumstances to why it didn't work out.
Yeah. Any concerns about the Bills whatsoever after this loss, or is it just you ran into Derrick Henry? It happens.
No, I'm not too worried.
Hmm.
I mean, I guess the one question is, so like the run defense definitely didn't look good in this one. Is it just
Hmm.
Derrick Henry had a monster day, or is this like as you think about the Bills down the line? Because when you're thinking about the Bills at this point, when I'm thinking about the Bills, I'm thinking about playoff bound Super Bowl. I'm thinking about big picture stuff with
Right.
Buffalo because they're at that level. So
Hmm.
if they get to a playoff situation where it's like there's a very realistic situation that they could face Chiefs, Titans, Ravens on the way to the Super Bowl. After
Hmm.
seeing this, do you think that's something they can get through?
Yeah. So, but Chiefs, Titans, Ravens. Well, they probably wouldn't have to play all three of them, right? That would be a pretty bad draw. I mean, like if you're giving me the field or the Bills, I'm taking the field, right? So
Mhm.
there's that. But I mean, they're definitely a true contender in the AFC. The nice thing is that a couple of the other contenders, Cleveland and Kansas City, who we'll talk about later on in this podcast, haven't looked as promising as we thought they would be heading into this season. So that's kind of the upside.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I'm not worried about Buffalo. I still think that they're the best team I've seen through the start of this season. Probably outside of Arizona, who's obviously undefeated, but they did look really impressive at parts in this game. And if they get that half-yard sneak, they probably win this. So I'm not
Hmm.
overly worried about Buffalo. That it just seemed like they kind of let it down in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I agree. All right. So now let's get into the meat of the episode. Kyle, rough week for you last week. You end up with a sub 500 week, and I end up losing a point. So now I'm leading 16 to 22. Again, lowest amount of points is what you want here. Kyle, how are you feeling after a rough week?
Didn't win my appeal to get my -5 for the Jaguars call, but it
Hmm.
happens. It's okay. We can disagree with the decision, but uh, this is a tricky week. I think this is a tricky week. We have a lot of home underdogs this week, and a lot of bye weeks, so it creates a little interesting of a schedule situation. So this should be an interesting pick 'em.
Yeah. So you get the first pick here to give me a game. Where do you want to go with this?
All right, I am going to go with. I think this is going to be a really competitive game, and I'm not really sure right now which team is. I think I know which team is better, but I'm not entirely sure. So I'm going to give you this one. I'm going Colts 49ers to lead us off.
Yeah, this is a good one. Also, I should mention, there's 13 games here. So with our show, only 12 will get drafted. The 13th one we'll still talk about. We just won't have it part of the draft if anyone cares about that kind of thing. Colts, Niners, this is a tough one. I have 49ers in my notes. I think I'm going to go against my notes. I think I'm going to pick the Colts here. I'm going to change my notes up. I right before this podcast, I was watching some Carson Wentz film. And I thought Wentz looked really good. It was against the Texans, But granted, the Texans are, so horrible defense, but there were still some really good throws there. And I think that I'm more impressed with Carson Wentz than whoever's quarterback for the 49ers right now. I think the Colts actually have a quarterback advantage. The Colts are starting to get a little healthier. Their offense is looking better. They're starting to look like that team that we expected them to be. And the issue with the Colts has been how they cover, but I just don't know if San Francisco can fully take advantage of that the way another team could. So again, I literally had San Francisco in my notes up until this point. I am going to go with the underdog here on the road, the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, and just going off your win stuff, it's still an adventure sometimes for me. Some of the stuff is like, he's trying to elongate plays that he just has to go down. He still has some of those decisions. But at the end of the day, he's a quarterback with a 64% completion percentage, over 1,500 yards, 9 touchdowns, only 1 interception, 8 yards per pass play. So, and it looks like T.Y. Hilton is now healthy, so it looks like he's going to be going. I know he played, I think, the previous game. So I think this is going to be a really interesting game. I think the Colts kind of need this game. I mean, the 49ers kind of need this game, though, too, the way the NFC West is playing out and keeping up with those two teams at the top and wanting to hang on to a wild card spot potentially. I think I'm leaning Colts on this one, but I could see it going either way. I guess the one thing I look at is that the Colts are still a pretty good run defense. They're not quite the same pass defense that they were last season, but they're still a pretty good run defense. And does that hurt San Francisco's chances, especially if Trey Lance is starting?
Yeah, I think so. And listen, both quarterbacks are listed as questionable right now. So that's obviously not good for the 49ers either. And yeah, I mean, obviously that's how Shanahan likes to run his offenses, right? Is through the ground game. And it hasn't gone so well. And, for the San Francisco 49ers, maybe there's a little bit of like, hey, you did trade 3 first-round picks for a rookie quarterback instead of, the Rams who traded 2 first-round picks for Matt Stafford, kind of working better there. But regardless, back to the game itself. Are we a little bit underrating the Colts at this point? We all thought they would be good preseason, and then they stumbled very early on, obviously falling down to 0-3. But they blew out the Texans 31-3. Sure, it's the Texans, but they still blew them out. The week before, they were in overtime against the Baltimore Ravens, who a lot of people are saying are one of the top teams in the AFC. I think we might be sleeping on the Colts a little bit. Now, is it enough for them to make the playoffs? I don't know, but I think they might be better. The Colts feel better than a 2-4 team to me.
Yeah, and not to mention too, the other part of this is that, if Carson Wentz doesn't get hurt, they could also have beaten the Rams. So I think this is an interesting team. This team feels, I don't know, it just kind of feels 9-8-ish. Like, I think that they recover to that spot. Whether it's enough to make the playoffs, we'll see. But yeah, I think that this is a solid team, but they obviously don't have the playmakers on the outside that make you really excited. And they don't have the playmakers in the secondary that get you excited about their defense. I just think it's a solid team with a decent running game.
Yeah, you could see maybe potentially something a little bit reminiscent of the year they went 1-5 and then still made the playoffs with the Colts. So people in that organization know what it's like to get to a slow start and still have success. Should be interesting. We want to move on to the next game.
Yeah, we can move on.
All right, I'll give you the game that's going to be tomorrow night. I'm going to give you Broncos at Browns here.
Yeah, this was next on my list. And I think I'm going to lock it up here. I think I'm getting really good value right now. So I'm going to take the Browns and I'm going to lock it -2.
Lock it up, Case Keenum.
I'm not overly worried about Case Keenum.
Okay.
I'm not overly worried about who's going to be the running back in the backfield because I just think with the Browns, I know that there's a ton of injuries, but I think that they still have the guys to get this done. I still think Odell Beckham's going to have the capability of hitting a big play. Jarvis Landry might play in this game, potentially. We'll see what happens on that spot. But I still think that they're going to have success running the football because that's just what Kevin Stefanski does. He schemes up good running games. I think he's going to be able to do that in this game, and I think they're still going to be able to have a chance to hit big shots. I don't think Case Keenum's going to be awesome, but I think he's going to be good enough, and then I trust this Browns defense to kind of swallow up this Broncos offense.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about the Browns for me is, I mean, obviously just all the injuries. I mean, it's not just Baker, but they have injuries on the offensive line, in their receiving core. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is banged up, so they have injuries all throughout. And this team, when healthy, probably is, double-digit favorites against Denver. I do think that even if you say, okay, all that stuff, if they're a 9-win team with all those injuries, that's still probably good enough to beat the Broncos. I mean, the Broncos have just had a complete fall from grace since that 3-0 start. Really, the Ravens kind of torched their secondary, and ever since that happened, they just haven't been able to figure out what to do.
Yeah. And that was something that it seemed like that they were going to have to rely on this season. And if teams have just kind of figured out how to attack it, I don't really know where the success is going to happen for this defense. So, I think the Browns are going to hit a couple big plays. I don't think they're going to blow them out just because of, with all the injuries, but I do think that they're good enough to win this game by 3 or more. So I think that's just a safe pick. And this feels like a get right game for the defense.
Yeah. Another interesting factor is that Teddy Bridgewater has, he's had his own injury stuff at this point. So that it looks like he's going to play, but there's at least another factor there. I think it's a safe bet to bet against Denver, though. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I think betting against them for the rest of the season feels like a good play, honestly.
Yeah.
I think one of the themes that I've seen early in the season is that bad football teams are pretty bad, and I'm leaning towards Broncos are being a bad football team.
Yeah, it's probably the way it goes. So we'll see how this plays out. Big one for Cleveland, though. Got to get this win, even with the injuries. Let's move on. Why don't you give me a game?
All right. Let's see here. Go through my list. I might change up this list here.
Okay.
So I might skip on my list here a little bit. I'm just trying to see one thing. You know what? Let's just go ahead and do it. I'll jump one game. I'm gonna give you Eagles at Raiders next for my third pick. I had them at 4th. I'm moving up to 3.
Okay, so I consider locking this up. I'm going with the Raiders here. The Raiders are 3-point favorites at home. So people in the desert saying that these are two equal teams if they were in a neutral site. I think the Raiders are clearly the better team in this one. I feel like the Raiders' offense has looked, good pretty much all season, and you could say, well, new head coach, but they looked pretty good last week as well. So I wouldn't really be that concerned about it. On the flip side, their defense has been vastly improved, and I think that with the way they like to play a lot of zone, I don't know if that'll be great for Jalen Hurts. That might have a hard time with that because you can't use the running game the way you typically want to. So it should be an interesting game, but I think that the Raiders, I feel comfortable picking the Raiders here.
I think that they're the clear favorites in this game, and they're probably the
Hmm.
team I would pick too. I guess the two things I have concern for is that the Raiders right now are 26th here in rushing yards per attempt. They're 4.6 yards per attempt. So can the Eagles get this running game going with Hurts, with Sanders, and kind of, maybe control the clock a little bit that way to where this is either a really close game or potentially an Eagles upset. Not to mention, there was a lot of emotions in last week's game, a lot of the team coming together and all that kind of stuff. Is there a bit of a letdown after that? One of the things we said earlier in the season, doesn't this just kind of feel like a game the Raiders would lose after everything that happened last week in previous years? Now, obviously, with Gruden not there, maybe that thing changes, but that also feels like it's kind of the theme for the Raiders sometimes. I do think they're the much better team here and they should win, but do those aspects add to like cause for the concern?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. And I think that, again, there is a pathway for the Eagles to win this game. I think we both kind of agree, like, the Raiders are like the favorites. But again, favorites doesn't mean you're going to win. Like, I think probably, the way I see it at least is like the Raiders have like a 65% chance to win. But that still means that 35% chance could absolutely happen. And with the Eagles, the Raiders like to play zone, as I said. Well, the Eagles typically try to get teams in zone and then sort of scheme stuff up. So maybe that could be an advantage for Nick Sirianni for this Eagles offense. The flip side, though, is I just feel like for the Raiders, just throw the ball down the field. They should be all right. Even if Philly plays the cover two that they like to play, you should be able to still pass the ball effectively against this team.
Yeah, and I think they will. I think they will, and
Mhm.
that's probably why they win this game. So are you locking this or no?
Not locking it. I'm saving my lock.
Saving the lock. All right. But yeah, so I had to bump that one up to 3 though, just in case, because I do feel like there's some upset potential just off of the emotions coming down off of the last game. But the Raiders are a significantly better team. And once again, we keep saying this, if the Raiders want to make the playoffs, they win games like this, right?
Yeah. Instead, they'll probably lose this, but then beat the Chiefs. Let's move on. I gotta be honest, Kyle. I feel like that might have been a bit of a reach. I think it wasn't a horrible pick, but I think that there's some better games on here, some closer games. I'm gonna give you one that I hope we can spend 0 seconds talking about. Falcons at Mammals here. Where are you going?
So this was actually the one I had third, and I bumped it down for a couple of reasons. I'm
Uh-huh.
picking the Falcons here. So it
Okay.
sounds like potentially, I faded Miami last week because Howard and Jones are were out. It
Hmm.
sounds like they're potentially going to play in this game, or at least one of them is. It sounds like Howard's going to play, but there is still a lot going towards the Falcons here. They're going to be able to run the ball well in this game, I think. And, you know, the Falcons coming off a bye week compared to Miami flying back from London, like that seems like a really difficult matchup. I
Yeah.
know
How
I'm
did they do
pick
that? Didn't they used to make it? You got a bye week after the London trip.
well, the Falcons did. I don't know how the
Yeah.
Miami did. So, uh, yeah. So I just think that the Falcons coming off the bye compared to Miami flying all the way back from London. Not to mention, I think the Falcons are a slightly better team, though they're not a team I would bet on the road as a favorite. I do think that they're going to win this game, though. I'm going to take the Falcons just because of the aspects of that, and I think that Cordarrelle Patterson could have a big game here.
Yeah, this is, I think, going to be an ugly game that I'm just not really that interested in. I could see, Luke Brown saying Dolphins win easy. Don't kid yourself, folks. I love Luke Brown's just undying optimism for the for the Dolphins, no matter what. I think getting the corners back is like a huge deal. I think that's going to really help that defense. Obviously, it's built around their corners, and the defense has not been good this year. So getting those guys back could be a big deal. I think getting to a back like the Dolphins have had a lot of injuries so far through 6 weeks. They're relatively healthy at this point for kind of the first time all season. So you at least have that going. I think it's a fine pick for Atlanta. I think to me, this feels like a coin flip game because the Falcons have been very inconsistent this season, and so have the Dolphins.
Yeah, and I think the one thing with those corners is that, Matt Ryan's never, I don't think this Falcons team's really built to drive the ball downfield like that. And so I just think that they're going to be able to kind of get chunk plays out of running game, short passing game, and that's kind of how they can win this game. Um, but yeah, I mean, I do think that there is some Dolphins bounce back potential after, kind of getting embarrassed in that London game again, playing the Jaguars and losing that, snapping their
Mhm.
streak. And I actually thought Tua played pretty well in that game too. Now he was going against the Jaguars defense, so there's a caveat. But with Devontae Parker potentially back too, maybe Miami puts together a pretty decent offensive performance.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it, and again, I thought Tua played pretty well. Again, it's weird how the Tua hate has really like boiled, over at this point. It's become the biggest thing. I'm kind of just confused because it's like, listen, you and I haven't exactly been in the Tua fan club this off season, but it's weird how it's like now this week is the one where he's getting crushed. I thought he had one of his better weeks.
Yeah. I just think everyone's under like all of a sudden Brian Flores is on the hot seat because they lost to the
Right.
Jaguars. Like
Hmm.
I just think losing to the Jaguars does that.
Yeah, that's probably fair. I think, in fairness, it might be a decent policy too if you lose to the Jaguars, just get rid of everybody.
Yeah, I mean, there might be at this point, which is crazy because I mean this team has to start winning games because I believe they don't have their pick next year, right?
Right. Yeah. I said this last week, but then I talked myself out of it. But yeah, in the Eagles trade, they traded their pick. They didn't trade the 49ers pick. In hindsight, maybe messed that one up.
Yeah, I mean they need to start winning football games. The Eagles are going to have like the top three picks of the draft at this point.
Yeah. Also, completely baffling decision. Like I remember criticizing this at the time, and people got mad. Dolphins fans got mad at me, but it looks horrible now of trading up to get Jalen Waddle, who I like a lot as a player, but especially and I really liked him as a prospect. But it's like you gave up that extra first round pick, which might end up being a top 5 pick at this point. So that way you could just get to number 6 and draft a receiver when there was like 17 good receivers in this draft class.
I agree. I
Mhm.
mean, I really like Waddle. I mean, they had to have had some intel that somebody was going to take him before them, I guess, right? Like, otherwise, it just makes no sense. But
Well, I mean, yeah, someone probably would have, but I mean, the Eagles, who they traded with, still ended up with Devonta Smith, right? So, like, you could have
yeah,
just done with the Eagles. They had to trade up to do it, but I think only one. I think they gave up like a 4th round pick or something.
yeah. So, I mean, it was a weird situation, but
Mhm.
tough situation in Miami. They do need to start racking up some wins.
Yeah, and also like going back, I mean, everyone talks about the Tua over Herbert, but they also drafted Austin Jackson, who might be the worst first round pick outside of Isaiah Wilson of all time, and Noah Igbenogany, who's done nothing as well. So I mean, one of the all time worst drafts it's looking like with the Tua, Noah Igbenogany, Austin Jackson draft.
It's been a rough stretch in Miami. At least they're not the Jets, I guess, is what they have going for them. I mean, uh, the two over Herbert thing is so crazy just because like I get the criticism. It's easy to look back on that and just be really upset. But at the same time, like I don't remember a single soul saying Justin Herbert should have said been taken over Tua, right?
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's all that's all hindsight, And Luke Brown says, "I'm happy with the Waddle pick. He and Tua have great chemistry. I have no problem with the selection. If you were already picking six, I just didn't like the trade up aspect."
Yeah. No, I
Mhm.
agree. So it's a we'll see what happens with this team. I don't know if they're going to be I don't know how great they're going to be.
Yes. Also, Kenneth Lee. Miami chose to have a late bye instead of London bye. That's right. So that's how I remember now. If you have a London game, typically you get the bye week after that. But you can, if you have a later bye, you can choose to keep the later bye instead of that. That's right. So thank you, Kenneth Lee, for clearing that up. Want to move on?
Yeah, we can move on. So
All
this is
right.
me giving you a game, right?
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to dare I say the marquee matchup of the week, Bengals at Ravens.
Okay, Bengals at Ravens. I don't think this is the marquee matchup of the week. I think I mean, I had one game ahead of it, so like we're pretty close to where we're actually two games ahead of it. So we're close, but I don't know. I mean, I think that like it's kind of one of those things where I remember we've talked about this a bit now. With certain teams, like I have to see it, and I think actually when I say I have to see this team beat, we have to see Team X beat Team Y then every single time they've beaten that team. But the Bengals have just been the team that Lamar has ran all over since literally his first start in the NFL. I mean, he's done nothing but own the Bengals. Everyone talks about kind of the Browns being the little brother to the Ravens and the Steelers, but the Bengals are also the little brother. I think Baltimore, it's in Baltimore. Baltimore feels like the favorites here, especially with the Ravens defense. Like playing really well against Justin Herbert. I assumed it was like largely scheme, but once I watched that game, like a lot of it was just they were playing, covering really well. Baltimore, doesn't matter where they get their corners, they're going to play well. It's not an insult to the Bengals. It's just a compliment to the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, I think Baltimore's defense could have a big game here. Maybe they get a couple turnovers over from Joe Burrow, stuff like that. I will say this is not your father's Cincinnati Bengals defense.
Hmm.
This defense can make some plays. I like the guys in the secondary. I think they have some good guys up front. They've been good against the run this season. They have some. They're not a crazy like turnover team, but they're a team who gets a bunch of stops. It seems like. So I kind of like this Bengals defense. I think that there is some upset potential brewing here. I mean, I think I'd still probably lean Ravens, but I do think this game's closer than -6.
Okay, interesting. So yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the Bengals defense has looked very good, but I also think part of what the Bengals defense have done well is cover well, which doesn't matter as much against against the Baltimore Ravens.
That's fair, but I also think that they did a pretty good job against the run. I mean, it's going to be an interesting matchup. I see this game being lower scoring than probably people think looking at the two. The headline here is Lamar against Joe Burrow. I see this
Mhm.
game being a little lower scoring than people think.
Maybe I kind of see that on the other side against Cincinnati against Baltimore. I just don't know. What's the plan for Cincinnati? How do they stop this Ravens passing attack or just the Ravens offense in general? I mean.
Um, I mean, you probably have to say they have to win man-to-man matchups on the outside, right? You know,
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, that's I mean, you do have the Ronnie Staley injury that can help, but I mean, it's easier said than done.
Yeah, and then you still have to tackle Lamar Jackson. So I mean,
Right.
there's that
Hmm.
part of it too. But I'd imagine like that's basically what I think a lot of teams have to do against Baltimore is say, hey, this is all running through Lamar. We're going to match up man to man with these guys. We're going to hope we win a couple matchups. Maybe Marquise Brown hits a big play here and there. Maybe Mark Andrews gets loose for a couple times, but we hope we win those matchups more than we lose them. And then we just put a lot of resources towards containing the run. I feel like that's the situation a lot of teams are going to have to play against this team.
Yeah, and I'm still I'm still waiting for a team to do the Bill Belichick, play man coverage, and have your defensive line simply focus on stopping a Lamar Jackson rush and see how that goes. Teams have had success with it. We haven't seen it yet this season, so that's kind of maybe the one thing to look out for. But I don't know if Zach Taylor is the guy who's going to think about that plan. I know he's not the defensive guy, but you know what I mean.
Man, you just love taking once a week to just hit on Zach Taylor. It feels like poor guy.
Hey, only
Uh,
once a week is generous with Zach Taylor.
So, I mean, but you're looking at this team though. You got Trey Hendrickson, who I think is actually pretty decent against the run. You got a guy like DJ Rader, who's obviously very good against the run in the middle of that defense. This could be the kind of team that says, "Hey, we do that kind of 1 yard and sit. We're not rushing the quarterback. We're basically just waiting for the quarterback and trying to contain him." This is kind of the defensive line that is, somewhat built to have some success doing that, though, right?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, again, speed is another way of how you can beat Baltimore, but that's usually with the linebacking core or the safeties who are in the box. So sure, but I don't know. I think I would need to see. I mean, listen, we talked about how the Baltimore Ravens always ran the ball well against Cincinnati. Like they had Geno Atkins. It's not like they were without superstar talent there. So it's possible. I guess we'll have to agree to disagree. I like the Ravens in this one.
So you think it's a blowout?
I would bet on the Ravens -6. I would bet on them to cover.
Okay. Yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, we'll see on this one. I think it's going to be a close one, but yeah, we'll see who has the bragging rights here.
Yeah. We'll see how this goes. This should be an interesting one to talk about. We don't disagree as much as we used to, Kyle, but this is a good back and forth.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this game. I think it's the marquee game of the week. I know this other one that you're probably going to get me here looks a little more exciting on paper, but um, I think that's going to be a fun game too.
Let's talk about that marquee game that looks more exciting on paper. This one's going to be more exciting. I think it's insane to say that Bengals Ravens will be more exciting than Chiefs Titans. I'm giving you Chiefs Titans, AFC rematch from a couple years, AFC Championship rematch. I feel like people forget the Titans were in the AFC Championship game just 2 years ago. Where are you going with this one? Chiefs 5.5 point favorites on the road in Nashville.
I'm still gonna pick the Chiefs. It's just hard to pick against this team, right? Like, I don't care. They could be like 3-10, and I'll be like, yeah, the Chiefs probably still scored 35. Um, so it's
Mhm.
just really hard to pick against this team. That being said, I thought like for a half second, should I lock up? You rarely ever get the Chiefs less than a touchdown. Should I just lock it up and go for it? I backed out of it because I'm just like, I'm looking at this and it's like Derrick Henry is going to have a bajillion yards in this game. Like, there's just nothing
Mhm.
that's going to stop him. I think this Chris Jones defensive end thing's been a disaster. I think it completely messes up their defense. I think that they're at least decent against the run with him in the middle because he's a superstar player as a defensive tackle. I think it's a complete disaster to have him as defensive end. And I just feel like Derrick Henry's going to carve up these guys. So I don't know if the Titans can win with that. I mean, they can win with that as a thing because this Chiefs defense, we've seen how bad it is at times. That maybe that controls the clock. Then all of a sudden, it's a shorter game for Kansas City. But that being said, I just feel like Kansas City is the team that's going to walk off the bus and drop 35 on anyone, and it's just hard to pick against that. So I'm taking the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, this should be a high scoring game, right? Like this is one where I think you probably bet the over, although the only maybe question mark I have is that could the Titans run the ball a lot? These games have been very high scoring. When we've seen them, obviously the AFC Championship game, there was that big 10 point comeback with the Chiefs because that's what they did every playoff game in that run. I also remember the Titans beat the Chiefs in the regular season that year, so kind of some interesting stuff there. I guess the other interesting factor is we finally saw Daniel Sorensen get benched, which was kind of the thing that like fans were saying across the board, like probably should happen. They finally did it last week, and it worked, but it was against the Washington football team. How much does that matter? But maybe with the Titans, playing against the Titans, could this be another just sort of some personnel changes could really help the Kansas City Chiefs perhaps on defense?
Yeah, I do think it might improve marginally. I don't know how good it is going to be in the long run. This might just be a bad defense. Now, it may not be the 32nd ranked defense forever, but I think that might affect the defense. It might make it marginally better. That being said, I think the one thing is that now maybe you're one of those people who thinks Patrick Mahomes is just a turnover machine now. I'm not ready to necessarily go on and just say that. I know they got a turnover last week, but are the Titans the kind of defense built to get turnovers on this Chiefs defense? I know they have Kevin Byard back there, who is a very good, kind of ball hawk safety, but can they create turnovers and give their offense more opportunities against the Chiefs?
Maybe. I mean, right now everyone can create turnovers against the Kansas City Chiefs. They've been doing nothing but turn the ball over, and you can blame it on Mahomes if you want to. He has 8 interceptions, of his own, and he's turned the ball over. I mean, you look at the numbers. There's only one game where he hasn't thrown an interception. That was against Cleveland, and he's thrown multiple interceptions 3 times already. Now, an element of that is just bad luck. In fact, a big element of that is bad luck. Turnovers in general tend to have a lot of flukiness to them, which is why a lot of people try to, almost just take them out of the equation when you're evaluating who was the better team in a game and not just looking at the final score. So that's a factor. But I mean, for Kansas City, like you do have to, you can't turn the ball over 4 times, which they're seemingly doing every game at this point.
Yeah. No, I agree. It'll be it's going to be a very fun matchup. Obviously, these teams are going to score a lot of points, but it's just hard to pick against Kansas City no matter what. This team's going
Yeah,
to score a
sure.
bunch of points, so I'm picking Kansas City. I don't like picking against another home dog, but that's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I also think this is to me, again, kind of similar to your Eagles Raiders pick. I'm giving you this one because obviously the Chiefs are going to be the team that you pick, but like the underdog has like a 40% chance to win. So that's why I like it being on your side instead of mine.
That's fair.
Hmm.
You want to move on?
Yeah, let's move on. You give me a game here.
All right, I'm going to give you the weirdest team in football against the team that has the weirdest finishes every week. I got the Saints traveling to Seattle here as my next pick.
Yeah. Yep. You say the weirdest team in football. I honestly don't know which one you're referring to with the Saints and Seahawks because either one of them could fit that. I think the Saints are the better team in this. I think that with Russell Wilson, that might change. This is, one of the primetime games. I'm going to pick the Saints, and I'm going to lock it up. This is my lock of the week. Saints cover a 4.5 point spread, in my opinion. Winston has, again, he's played fine. He's been kind of weird. I think Alvin Kamara does a lot for this team. I trust the Saints to put up points. Winston has had success against the cover 3 zone defense his entire career. Sean Payton has had success against that kind of defense for his entire career for the most part. So you have kind of that good matchup for the Saints offense. The concern is always with the Saints that Winston can throw the ball away, especially when you're taking him as a favorite. That's always going to be a concern. But also you have the flip side, which is I just don't trust Geno Smith, especially not against what's probably a pretty good defense. This feels like a Saints victory to me.
I agree. So the Seattle defense is pretty interesting because right now, like you're saying, the Jameis has the capability of definitely coughing up the football. We all know
Hmm.
that. The Seattle defense is actually pretty terrible at getting turnovers right now. They're not doing a very good job of it. Um, this team also isn't stopping the run, which is something that we kind of like. Well, even if the secondary sucks, at least they're going to be able to stop the run. They're not really stopping the run very well. So
Hmm.
overall, I think this team is just struggling. I don't think it's a very good football team. It's a bad football team with 2 really good receivers. That's kind of how I feel about the Seahawks right now, and especially with Russell Wilson out. There's just not a lot of reason to be optimistic about this team. I would definitely go Saints here. I think Kamara has a big game.
Yeah, I mean, this feels like a safe again for Seattle. It's like the whole thing we always talk about with Seattle is, well, they're not a very complete roster. You're kind of built around their quarterback, but look at their quarterback. Oh my God, Russell Wilson is great. Well, like, okay, now you don't have that. And Geno Smith is a fine.
The best part of the Seahawks offense is going to be pregame with Russell Wilson practicing his 2-minute drills. I don't imagine anything else looking pretty good in this game.
Yeah, probably. And again, the only real concern you have with the Saints, which is the concern you always have, is someone in the comments referred to it as YOLO Winston. See if that guy shows up. That's my biggest concern about locking them up.
Yeah, and as he also points out, Seattle's a very good home field advantage, so maybe that adds to it
Hmm.
too. And especially with the lock, it's kind of that teaser zone where you're not getting the key number, which is 3.
Hmm.
you're on the wrong side of that. That makes it a little tough. But, this Saints team, I'm just not worried about Jameis Winston right now because it's an Alvin Kamara offense that happens to have Jameis Winston at quarterback. It's
Right.
not it's not a
Mhm.
it's not an offense led by Jameis Winston.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Let's move on. Let's go. I'm gonna give you one now. So only one game left that is less than 7 points. So kind of an easy one to give you. I'm gonna give you Panthers at Giants. Obviously, know where you're going. Where are you going here?
Picking against another home dog. That's why I don't love this week, but I'm
Hmm.
going with the Panthers. I mean, who's left for the Giants? Like, I was looking forward to Kadarius Toney. Doesn't seem like Kadarius Toney's going to play. Chuba Hubbard should, even if Chuba Hubbard has to play, I think he has a big game in this one. And yeah, there's just not a lot of reason to get excited about the Giants, especially when everyone's injured. So I think the Panthers win this one pretty easily.
Yeah, the Giants are one of those teams where it's like they're not a great team when healthy. So now that they're banged up, like this is making things a lot worse for them. The other thing is like I didn't think Carolina looked that impressive last week against Minnesota, who is probably pretty good, but they still didn't look that impressive. The question is, quite frankly, Carolina is also in that Denver boat of going 3-0 and then dropping three straight. They have to win this one. If you lose this one, you're done. I agree. I almost locked this one up, and I think there's a reason why we have so many games with bigger spreads ahead of it. Like I think that if you're a gambling man, betting on the Panthers -3 is probably a smart bet.
It is. I just don't know if I'm ready to trust this team yet. Now, I do think the
Mhm.
one thing that'll change compared to last week is I don't think we'll see the drops out of those receivers. I think they're too good a wide receiver group to, have that kind of performance in back-to-back weeks.
Mhm.
But, if that happens again, maybe that opens up the Giants upset. But I just with the guys out for the Giants, it's hard to pick them on a right week. Never mind when all these guys are out.
Yeah. Zachary Stewart says it's time to face the elephant in the room. New Jersey needs to fire Joe Judge. He is a huge reason his team is terrible. It's kind of, I mean, what a fall from grace Joe Judge has had. I remember last year we were kind of both on this train of like, why is everyone so incredible with Joe, so impressed with Joe Judge for getting his team to win 6 games last year? This has been it's kind of one of those things where if you're that sort of hard ass coach, it's never a good look when your team is losing. When your team is winning, it's fine. But once your team starts to lose, will Joe Judge be another one in the long list of failed Belichick, disciples?
Hey, if him and Flores want to get fired and come back to our team, I'd love it.
Uh
Our
huh.
defensive play calling's a mess. We could use Flores in there, and our
Hmm.
special teams has been a mess. We could use Joe Judge back for that. So, welcome back, boys. I'm okay with it.
What? You already got Matt Patricia coming back. You need more?
How much help does Belichick need?
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, yeah. I mean, and listen, there's a lot of issues to the Giants. It's not just Joe Judge, but
Right.
hasn't been this again. Kind of one of those things. Maybe not the problem, but definitely not the solution. Let's move on. Why don't we? How about unless you have anything else you wanted to add about this?
No, we can move on. I will move on here. I'll give you my stupid team. Let's go Jets at Patriots. This feels like an easy pick, but they're all easy picks from here on out. So, who are you going with here?
Yeah, this definitely does. I mean, we saw what happened last time. Zach Wilson had to play the Patriots. It did not go well. Maybe you could argue the Patriots have sort of not played as well since then. That's a fair thing to say. But I mean, obviously, I'm picking the Patriots to beat the New York Jets here. The one sort of way that this can be sort of spoiled for the Patriots would be just if Zach Wilson does what he did against the Titans and kind of just has like 3 or 4 of those like spectacular plays. But will that happen? Probably not. You got to think that this is going to be a get right game for New England.
Yeah, I mean, I still feel like this is a decent team. You know, I think if teams are bad on the road, or if I don't know, I just feel like this is a decent team. If teams
Hmm.
are getting this team just isn't getting blown out. It looks like they're in every game. I think that they're going to win this game. This feels like kind of like that game, against the who was it 2 weeks ago? That was terrible. Oh, the Texans, where they pulled it out. But, if this team has playoff ambitions, they have to win this game. They can't drop a game at home to the Jets. I do think Zach Wilson plays better in this game. I mean, it can't get any worse.
Right.
So I do think Zach Wilson plays better in this game, but I think one of the things that we're talking about here is that Mac Jones has been really good. I mean,
Hmm.
you know, I've seen all the stuff now comparing him to all the other rookie quarterbacks, and he's light years ahead. He's
Right.
actually like, potentially a top 20 quarterback in the NFL this year. Never
Hmm.
mind just over, compared to the other rookies who are not in that spot. Um, I think Mac Jones has been very good. Even that interception last week, Kendrick Bourne came out today and said that he ran the wrong route. He ran a one-step slant instead of three-step slant, and that's why the throw was
Gotcha.
off. So, you know, even the ones that are looking like bad throws, it's not his fault. So I think that he's been very good. I think he's electric, and I think he's going to have some big plays in this one.
Yeah, Jones has been very impressive, I thought, and he made some really good throws in that Cowboys loss as well. I guess, and I still don't think the Jets defense is that good. So, like, that's another big advantage for the Patriots. This might be something that you are glad to hear. In the analytical power rankings, they finished ninth best. So again, that's sort of evaluating how they played through 6 weeks. I mean, part of you, I'm sure, is wondering, like, are you just being a homer by saying the Patriots are better than their record? The Patriots are better than their record. Like, they should, like, they've had some weird losses. I think the Dolphins one still stands out to me. That's kind of the one that you think about as like a tough one. But yeah, you're right. You lose this one, the Patriots are dead.
Yeah, I mean, if they did their job against the Dolphins, they win that. And if they pulled out one of those upsets, they lost 2 games by a combined total of 3 points, and then a third one in overtime by a touchdown or by
Hmm.
6 points. So, I mean, they could have, whether or not you could say they got outplayed. I mean, I think they outplayed the Dolphins in that game, but lost on the scoreboard. And I think
Hmm.
they got outplayed by Tampa Bay and Dallas and lost on the scoreboard too, just marginally. So I do think that this is a team that I think is solid. I don't know how good it's going to be, but like if you're in that Colts tier, which I think is potentially a 9-8, I could see the Patriots in that tier definitely.
Yeah, it's interesting. I kind of agree. I think that one of the tough things too is it's like, okay, that's great. You're played better than your record. Well, you're still 2-4. Like
You're still
it's
two
not
and
like
four.
college where you then wait it. Like you still have to now overperform what you would have had to do had you been 4-2.
Yeah, and I want to see the coverage in this game. I didn't think it looked very good, but that being said, you were against the Cowboys last week. It would have been
Mhm.
really hard to look good.
And now
So
you're
I
playing the
want,
Jets.
yeah, I mean, so
Literally,
that's
you could argue it's from 1 to 32. You can make that argument.
yeah. So I do think the coverage will be better in this game. I do think that they play better, and once again, I want to see the offense open up a little more. They started to make some throws downfield the last 2 weeks. You're playing a crappy team right now. Go after them. Make them pay for mistakes. Let the kid cook.
Yes, let Mac cook.
Let him
Let's
make
move.
that mac and cheese.
What?
Cook mac and cheese.
That's
No,
not a thing that is gonna catch on.
I'm gonna start it. Fetch is becoming a thing. Don't worry.
Okay, I'm looking forward to the make that mac and cheese t-shirts coming out. This is good, Kyle.
Yeah. We're trendsetters here. That's we're the backwards hat podcast. We're trendsetters.
Yes, no one wore their hats backwards before this podcast. Let's move on. I'm going to give you a game. Uh, Here's another trend. Let's talk some balls. I'm going to give you the balls at Packers here. It's the only game with a single digit line. That single digit is 9.5. Why do you have Green Bay in this one?
Yeah, I almost locked up Green Bay. I went against it at the very last second just because Green Bay's look bored. Like honestly, like these games, doesn't it just seem that way? Like this team looks like they win when they want to. Like it just seems like that they're ready to like pull these games out by like 7 to 10 points and not ready to like destroy these teams. But they should destroy this team. They're significantly better. Their coverage has been really good. I don't see how Washington with Taylor Heineke is going to be able to throw the ball on this team. I don't really see them being able to run the ball because they can play man to man so well on the outside. Um, and then on the flip side, I mean, who's covering Aaron Jones? Who's going to be able to cover that? We've talked about this linebackers coverage in Washington. It's bad. It's very
Hmm.
bad. We've talked about this secondary coverage. You're having Landon Collins play as a deep safety. That's not going to work against Devontae Adams. The Packers should win this one by about 30. But that being said, the Packers have looked bored, and that's why I didn't lock it up.
Yeah, and the Packers have they have a lot of tough teams they have to play the remainder of the season. The week after on Thursday Night Football, they play the Cardinals. That should be a fun game. They also still have Kansas City, Minnesota twice, the Rams, the Browns, the Ravens. So gotta win these cupcake matchups, and yeah, they almost certainly will. I don't even know what the real game plan is for Washington. Like, how does this? Like, what's the pathway to Washington winning this one?
Pray.
Yeah, because like even like with some quarterbacks, it's like, okay, well maybe you'll get lucky and he'll throw a couple interceptions. Like Rodgers doesn't really do that, so like you're gonna have to find other ways to do it. I guess you hope that just your offense can, there still is injuries with the Packers. Maybe you can light stuff up, but again, you struggled against the Chiefs defense last year, so 9.5 points, and Packers might be. I mean, this is a tough one, tough season for the Balls.
Very tough season. I guess the way they win is like the defensive line has to get 7 sacks in this game?
More
than 7 sacks?
Yeah, that's not enough.
Montez Sweat's going to have 10 sacks in this game. Solidify the sack title.
And they'll still lose by 24.
Yeah, probably. We don't have to spend too much time on this. Let's move on.
Yeah, let's get off this. So I'm giving you a game. Well, no, so you give. Did I give you that one, or I gave you that one. So now you give me one.
That one.
3 games left: Texans, Cardinals, Lions, Rams, and Bears, Bucks left.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. We'll go with. I guess it's the closest line, so we'll just pick it anyway. Let's go Bears at Bucks. We saw this upset last season. The Bears are going to do it again, right?
Possibly. I mean, listen, hey, is Nick Foles starting? Maybe put Nick Foles in. That's Brady's kryptonite. He still is technically there, so we'll see. If the Buccaneers win, does Tom Brady shake hands with Nick Foles on the sideline?
He'll probably still be just as pissed after there's just no way. So this is, I think, the most interesting thing. The most interesting thing about this game, though, for me, for real, is that I'm interested in seeing Justin Fields in this game because we've talked about this. This is something you've been on. Justin Fields, throughout his college career and starting his pro career and in preseason, has struggled to read blitzes. Pass rush is definitely something his weakest suit, in that identifying pass rush, avoiding it, or aligning his pass blocking to protect it. So this is something he struggled with. Todd Bowles is not a very good matchup for that.
No.
Todd Bowles likes to bring a lot of guys at the quarterback. So, does Justin Fields survive this game? How does he manage that? I'm interested to see that, because that's a part of the growth of the quarterback, is like doing the little things like that. Is he able to do those little things? And he knows the pressure is going to be coming, because that's what Todd Bowles does. And Todd Bowles isn't going to change. He's going to do that even more, knowing that the quarterback struggles with that. So is he going to be prepared for that, and how will he adjust?
Well, part of me wonders with that kind of thing. The advantage is for Fields, you're getting the Bucs at the right time, because they still have all those injuries to their secondary. And listen, some of them might be all season. We don't really know. So that's kind of the advantage for Fields, is that you're getting them at the right time. That's what you want to have happen. But what you're alluding to, like the numbers are terrible for when when he's not getting blitzed. His passer rating is 72.8, which that's not great. When he does get blitzed, 55.6 passer rating. I believe when you throw it straight into the ground, it's 38. And also when he's under pressure, his passer rating goes down to 27.2. So that's not great numbers for Justin Fields so far. Small sample size. Zachary Stewart says Fields looking a lot like Mitchell Trubisky. Listen, I've kind of at this point said, you know what? I'm not going to argue every week about Justin Fields. I'm going to just wait the season out, and I think people will start to agree with me that maybe he was a project quarterback, which is what he's looking like. There was a play last week against the Packers where they run a concept designed to beat quarters coverage. Works perfectly. Blown coverage. Receiver way wide open down to field, and Fields just doesn't throw it to him, and instead tries to run straight into a Green Bay player. He makes weird decisions, and the upside is there. I get the positives, but as of right now, there's going to be a lot of growing pains with Fields.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take time. Like I said, I think that's the interesting thing though is, if you want to see growth out of your rookie quarterback, this is definitely going to be a really difficult game for him. It's definitely a matchup that doesn't, cater to what he likes to do. So I think Todd Bowles can kind of, mess with him a little bit here. And I think that's, it leads to a Buccaneers route.
Yeah. The nice thing is, again, maybe the Buccaneers don't blitz as much. They haven't been blitzing as much given the state of their corners. And if they do blitz, like, hey, just throw it up to Allen Robinson. Like, he'll probably be open every play if they're blitzing because it'll be one-on-one.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting, but that's definitely the most interesting aspect of this. There's not too much to look at this game. The Bucs should win by a lot.
Yeah. Jets at Pats already done. If so, I'll rewind later. Yes, it's already done. Interesting choice of a super chat just to ask where we're at in the show. But appreciate the super chat nonetheless. Yes. All right. So 2 games left. Only one will get picked. The other one will be left undrafted. They're both 15+ point spreads here. I'll give you your guy. I'll give you Dan Campbell. The Lions going to Los Angeles to play the Rams. Revenge game, double revenge game with Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford. Who's winning this barn burner?
Oh, upset city here. Keep an eye. No, it's going to be the Rams. I think that they're going to struggle. There's nobody going to be open in this game. Like, who's getting, like, is Khalif Raymond or whatever his name is going to get open for the line? I mean, if I have to say whatever his name is, I can already tell it's not an ideal situation for the wide receivers. There is some bad wide receivers in Detroit right now. Frank Ragnow being out has hurt this offensive line, I think, a little bit too. So I think that this is a tough situation for the Lions. I just don't see how they're going to be able to throw on this team.
Yeah, I mean, I think about a comment that, Lions fans are very unhappy with Jared Goff, which to some degree I get. Like, he's going to be the scapegoat this season. We kind of figured going in that would happen. But I saw one comment that, like, perfectly encapsulated my frustration with, like, the casual football fan of it. So it was initial tweet was someone said something about Jared Goff doesn't have receivers to throw to. That's fine. That's a fair thing. Someone else said having receivers doesn't matter when he only throws the ball 3 yards every play. And I just felt like, how could you miss the point this badly? The reason why he's throwing the ball 3 yards every play is because nothing's getting open downfield.
Yeah, the only people who can get open are his running back and tight end. So he's going to throw to the running back and tight end, who are typically 3 yards down the field.
And I got to say this as well. After watching that game on All 22, it made me frustrated even more with Dan Campbell's comments, which I didn't love at the time. But, like, that was one of the worst situations I've seen a quarterback get thrown into. Jared Goff did the correct decision on like 90% of his plays. Like, he made the right play. Like, there wasn't that much open. Nothing's happening. And it's like, hey, maybe don't throw a screen pass for 1 yard, run the ball for -2 yards, and then the defense can play back and nothing's getting open, and then blame your quarterback. Maybe, I don't know, throw the ball on an occasional first down. And I don't mean throw a screen pass for 0 yards.
Yeah, I mean, he could pull the Andrew Bynum and just start throwing Hail Marys every play. Just start throwing it 60 yards down the field. I mean, so we kind of said this on the Sunday show, but I'll ask it again. Could any quarterback be successful with this team right now? Anyone. If you had Patrick Mahomes on this team, would this team have a winning record?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like the couple people that you could like if Tom Brady's there, no. Tom Brady, they don't have a winning record. Like, the one thing you could maybe say is, like, if you had like a Lamar Jackson who could then, like, his running game would add enough to the offense that perhaps it would be good. But that's the only thing I have is like something like that. I mean, if you're talking about in terms of just the throwing game, like, no. Mahomes is there. Maybe they're not 0-6. They're not 3-3.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just a really tough situation. The Lions defense is also bad, so Stafford should torch him. I mean, this Lions secondary against Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp might break the 27 touchdown for a season record in this game.
Yeah. On top of that, with the Lions, they're banged up. So it's like another one of those teams where it's like they're already a bad team. It's like, okay, now Quintez Cephas is hurt now. Like, they have injuries to their offensive line. They have injuries to their defense. It's like they're already maybe the worst team in football, and now you throw those injuries on. I mean, it's a tough situation for the Lions, but at least you'll get a good draft pick.
Dan, I'm still rooting for you, man.
I guess explain the Dan Campbell hype at this point. Like, why are we excited about Dan Campbell at this? Because he runs a boring defense, a boring off. Like, I have to watch these games, Kyle. Like, it's my job to like study tape about this. I have to sit through this week after week after week. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. I'm ready to get off the Dan Campbell hype train.
Listen, this team, Dan Campbell is not in the building to scheme up. You can take your nerds like Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur. You could take those nerds and put them somewhere else. Put them in California where nerdy people go. In Detroit, in the NFC North, we want real tough guys like Dan Campbell running the team. We don't worry about scheme. We're worried about lining up and being bigger and stronger than the person in front of you. Unfortunately, the Lions don't have that either. But, Dan Campbell is going to bring the motivation for that. But
and then I read these mock drafts and it goes, okay, Lions, first overall pick, defensive end. I'm like, no, what are we doing? Why is this? Why do you keep this is guys, this isn't how you do this.
Yeah. That'd be terrible. I mean, I like Kayvon Thibodeau as much as the next person, but I don't think he should go to Detroit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a complete bust of a seat. Like a first overall pick spent not on a quarterback. It's not good value. But again, that's maybe a conversation for another.
I mean, I know you're not a college guy, but the issue we're having right now is there's not. It doesn't look like there's going to be a ton of options this season as far as college quarterback picks.
Yeah, I've heard that, which that definitely sucks. Although again, I think once we're at the point now where people in the NFL aren't really like digging into the college tape, they might discover guys that we've kind of seen happen where people's opinion changed sort of at the end of the season. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, it's the worst season it seems like that not have a great to have a top 5 draft pick and need a quarterback. It seems like.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a couple guys I like. I still like Malik Willis. He's still my favorite right now. He's just on a really, really bad team, so it's really hard to look awesome. And there's still a couple other guys that I'm interested in, but I want to see how it develops. But overall, we'll see how that plays out. Obviously, we're talking about the NFL. So we'll see how the Lions do. I mean, like I said, last Sunday, though, quarterback's not the only thing. This team needs about 18 starters to be about, a decent football team. So, and
the 4 starters they have are all hurt.
Yeah, exactly. So, they got a long way to go.
Yeah. Are we on 0-17 watch with the Lions?
No, I'm not ready to go there yet. Because this team, it's not like the previous Lions team that went winless, that they're just getting obliterated. This team still has been in games. So I do think that they pull one out.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be. I could see it being kind of like that Cleveland Browns team, though, where they had like a few games where they had a chance to win and ended up going on. Still got some winnable games on the schedule, though. To play the Eagles, play the Steelers, play the Bears again. You play Denver, and you play Atlanta. So you got some winnable games. They'll probably find a way to win one. I think I agree, but they're gross. The Rams are, incredible. So this should be a blowout. I'll say I think the Rams cover.
That'll be, I mean, I think so. This feels like a statement game for Los Angeles, doesn't it? Like
it feels like a run up the score game. It feels like hey, let's put Matt Stafford in the MVP consideration game.
Yeah, I mean, typically when you have one of the best NFL teams against one of the worst NFL teams, it's a bad matchup. But this is even just further a bad matchup on top of just being a really good team against a really bad team.
Yeah, but I'm sure Dan Campbell will say something in a press conference that everyone loves. Ready to move on?
Yes. We're gonna have to fight here soon if you keep hating on my guy.
It's not hate. I'm just. Have you watched Parks and Recreation?
No, but I get the gist.
Okay, so there's I've made this reference to something before, but I'm going to do it here. I think it makes sense. There's a character it's a little horse, not a pony, but a little horse named Little Sebastian. And there's a specific character that just doesn't understand why everyone loves it. Everyone else is obsessed with this little horse, and he's just confused the whole time. That's kind of the joke. That's how I feel about Dan Campbell. Everyone is just obsessed with Dan Campbell, absolutely in love. I just don't get it.
He's fun. And you know what? I'll take Dan Campbell. You enjoy your nerds, and that's fine.
Okay, that's right. We don't listen. Fair enough. It's not again. I think it would be cool if Dan Campbell is in the league and is a good head coach. I'd rather him be a good head coach than him be an interesting character in press conferences.
Yeah, that's fair. Once they start winning games, though, you'll see.
Okay, okay. Well, we'll see. And then Daniel says, "What is Kyle's channel called?"
It doesn't exist. I'm
Okay,
just
so yeah,
here, unfiltered Sunday and Wednesdays.
yes. There you go. All right, so that's all of the games we have selected, but there still is the Texans Cardinals that we will just talk about. Kyle, 17 and a half point spread for the Arizona Cardinals over the Houston Texans. Seems like the Houston Texans have finally kind of gotten to that. Okay, this is the worst team ever that we thought they would be. Do the Cardinals cover?
I don't know if they cover. I mean, probably because they win by a lot. I mean, this line just screams like basically Vegas is saying we're tired of you teasing down the Texans to like a field goal game. Stop
Mm-hmm.
doing it. So you can't tease them down to a field goal game anymore. That's basically what this line is. The Cardinals are going to win by a lot, though. The secondary has been awesome. They're going to cover up all of these, Texans non-skill players.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to probably eat Davis Mills alive. They're going to run the ball all over this team. They're going to throw some big plays. Kyler Murray's going to do some crazy stuff. Yeah, so they're going to win by a lot.
Yeah. Someone said it's the neck versus Mini Lamar. What's bigger, Kyler Murray or Davis Mills' neck?
It's probably pretty close.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's about even.
Maybe he could borrow some of that to get a little taller, gain a few inches.
Yes, Luke Brown. The people are asking, can we get a new channel from Kyle?
You guys are putting me on the spot here. I'll think about it.
Okay, Kyle, we're gonna nag you into eventually making a YouTube channel. We're gonna make this happen.
I'll do a YouTube channel if Dan Campbell will do a weekly podcast with me.
Okay, all right. You'll have to make it very clear. Oh no, Jackson Superior Sports. No, that's a different Kyle that goes on that show. I have no idea what's going on with him.
Wow. So just throw me under the bus.
What? No, I'm not. I'm throwing myself under the bus. I'm saying he wouldn't do the
Yeah.
podcast because if he knew that you were associated with me.
Oh yeah, you're the only person who doesn't like him. That's right. So
I am. Who else doesn't like him? Name one other person who's been like, you know what? The Lions haven't been great this year. Everyone's like, the Lions are incredible. This is their best 0-6 team of all time.
Yeah, I don't know. He's fun. I'm continuing to ride in the hype train. I don't care.
Okay. Is part of it just like we all accept that the Lions are always going to suck, so like at least to have an entertaining coach?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, who was expecting anything out of Detroit this season?
I mean, that's an argument I can get behind. Like if you're just like the Lions are always going to be terrible, so might as well be entertainingly terrible.
Yeah, I think.
But if that's the case, I kind of want Patricia back, right? He was entertainingly terrible, but like the other way.
Hey, Matt Patricia loves playing the Rams. Maybe they'll bring him in for this week.
Okay, probably not. I think that would be a bad move. Texans Cardinals back on track here. We really got sidetracked. I mean, there's not a lot to break down. The Cardinals are good. I think this is another team that I could see. I don't know who I think I might say the Cardinals will cover a 17.5 point spread.
Yeah, I mean, this feels like a game they could win like 48-0.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the Texans have like quietly been blown out like huge margins in multiple games. Like they lost to the Colts 31-3 last year, and people still think the Colts suck. Like that's how bad Texans have gotten. They won week 1 against a bad Jaguars team, and they've really been holding on to that high for a while.
And that's probably the only high they're going to get all season. This feels like a 1-16 team.
Yeah. So do you like the Texans to win more games or the Lions to win more games?
Push.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll each win one game.
Yeah, I'd go with that.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Again, at least no one's saying like David Coley, oh, what a mastermind.
Yeah. I think we all knew he was going to be bad, though. He what he needs to do is have some fun press conferences.
There you go. Yeah, really. I mean, that's all you have to do. If I ever became a head coach, I just like I'd literally just repeat whatever Dan Campbell has said.
Yeah, just be incredibly likable, and then all of a sudden you got your job for like 7 years.
Yeah, there you go. That's all you have to do. I'm convinced that works. I'm convinced. But then granted, Patricia got a 3rd year, so maybe not.
Yeah, but he's the opposite of likable. Like
that's what I mean. He got a 3rd year. He shouldn't have gotten that. So how did that work?
Oh yeah, I don't know.
The Lions are weird.
Yeah, I guess so. So yeah, I mean, do we have anything like interesting to say about this game? I guess.
JJ Watt revenge game.
Oh yeah, and Hopkins too, right? Is this?
Oh right, yeah, there you go.
Playing Texans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Remember that, Texans fans? Remember when you had one of the best receivers in football and Hall of Fame defensive end?
The Texans have two like legitimate superstar starters on the best team in football. They had
Hmm.
both of them.
Yeah. But
That's so
hey,
bad.
Davis Mills is neck though.
Yeah, I mean, you got that going for you, which is nice.
Brandon Cooks, possibly a top 20 receiver in football. See, it's not all bad.
How
Say
weird is
something
this?
nice about the Texans.
Um, they might actually find a way to get out of this Deshaun Watson thing.
Yeah, I mean, if they do that, I mean, well done. I don't know. I mean, there's been like 1,000 rumors, but like, we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. John McClain has been a pretty reputable like Texans reporter for a number of years. Like this isn't like, just a blog saying it. This is a pretty legit guy saying that he thinks this might happen this week.
Yeah,
Like,
the more I thought about it, I don't think it's crazy that like a team could do that. Like, I don't think it's crazy. Like a GM who knows it's like in their last year says like, hey, let's get Deshaun Watson. Like, let's try to save my job.
yeah, I think the interesting thing is so people are speculating that he'd get suspended like after being traded or something.
Hmm.
I just don't see the NFL doing that though, right? Like I guess that's the like I don't see the NFL allowing the Dolphins to go through with a trade and then being like, "Oh yeah, by the way, he's on the exempt list now."
Hmm.
Like
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
I don't know.
I don't know why he's not on the exempt list already. Like, why is the NFL like, that's fine, whatever. We all make mistakes. Like, what are we doing? Like, put him on the exempt list.
Yeah, until the investigation plays out, at the
Hmm.
very
Yeah,
least, just say we don't really want this guy representing the NFL right now.
yeah. I think that's probably fair. All right, so that's our show. Did you want to talk about the Red Sox at all? I didn't ask you that pre-show.
Um, we can touch on it briefly. Obviously, got
Hmm.
beat up today, so I mean, do you want me to just take it from there?
Sure. I mean, we can start off. You were very upset. The poor Red Sox. Also, I should mention we're done with the football part of this podcast. So if you're heading out now, thank you. We appreciate it. Kyle, why don't you let them know where they can find us on Twitter before we get to baseball?
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That's at Jackson Gruger on Twitter. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Gronin on Twitter. And make sure to follow the account page at On the Sideline JK on Twitter. That's at On the Sideline JK.
Yeah. So, anyways, I mean, we can start off with the poor Red Sox, first team in MLB history to have a fringe strike call not go their way.
Only team ever. I mean,
Hmm.
I guess you know, I was upset at the time, and I think a lot of Red Sox fans were upset at the time, and I think rightfully so. It was a bad call. It was a
Hmm.
bad call. There was a few bad calls. The two worst calls, I saw the scorecard come out after the fact. We saw the Jeff Passan thing where he missed 23 balls and strike calls, which is
Hmm.
just amazing that this guy is able to get an ALCS game
Uh,
with that sort of efficiency. Um, the two biggest balls and strikes calls that were missed in the game was Eovaldi's ball called a strike that was in the top right corner of the plate. And the other one, we had runner on first with the one out. And they call a strike three on JD Martinez on a 3-2 count where the ball was closer to the left-hander batter's box than the home plate. Um,
hmm.
that being said, as upset as I was that it was a 2-2 game, we could have went into the bottom of the ninth with the tie game. The Red Sox lost this game because they were 0 for 8, 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position, not
Hmm.
because, of this one singular call. Now, it sucks that we have to say we lost because of that, but um, at the same time, they made plenty of mistakes that left this as a 2-2 ball game at the time. Because if it's a 2-2 ball game, they don't get that call. All of a sudden, a run comes in and it's 3-2. Or, if they have, 4 or 5 runs off the opportunities they had, if all of a sudden they get that call, Astros hit a run and it's 5-3, Martin Perez is not coming in to knock in the next 3 runs or 7 runs or whatever it ended up being. 7 runs, what it ended up being. That's just not happening. They bring in a better pitcher in that regard and try and win the game. So, frustrating way to lose it, but, there's plenty of reasons why the Red Sox lost the game.
So here's my thing. As a Rays fan, it's very frustrating to hear all the Red Sox fans up in arms about a couple calls not going. And it was a horribly officiated game. I'm not going to say that, but the Red Sox. I looked at the umpire scorecards, and since the ALDS started, this is only the second time they have had a call go against them. The other one was they got 0.07 runs against them. So basically nothing. And the game that the Rays got eliminated, there was a worse expectancy than this one. So I also, fun fact on that called strike, apparently that pitch in that location only gets called a strike 23% of the time. The backdoor corner pitch doesn't get called a strike as often as you would think. So my thought is like, I hate, me, I hate to blame the ref guy, blame the umpire guy, which isn't, I get it. It's frustrating when it happens, but that's kind of how I felt about it.
Yeah, and like I said, the Red Sox made a ton of mistakes, and that's why they lost. And they made a ton of mistakes today, and that's why they lost. It definitely sucked in the moment that we lost off.
Sure, and that's
that
fair.
Last pitch was like a huge part. But the Red Sox had plenty of opportunities to win the game that they didn't capitalize on. So frustrating situation, but try and win 2 in Houston. We'll see what happens there. So I guess now that we've talked about it, are you pro or anti robo umps?
Sorry. My headphones cut out for a second. What was that?
Are you pro or anti robo umps?
So this might be a hot take. I'm anti robo umps, and I'm anti review in baseball. I think get rid of it altogether. I've been this way for a while. I think this is just me. I think baseball lost something when they added a replay. I think the yelling at the umpire, the managers getting ejected in a 162 game season, those are some of the stuff that really stands out. And I think it loses something when that's gone away.
That's probably fair. I mean, I like it on the home run calls because those are really hard to see.
I agree with that.
Potential, our position and all that. I mean, I would get rid of some of the replay, definitely. But, I guess if you want the right result, robo-ump's probably the way to go.
And I don't even hate, like for me, get rid of replay, but you can add into robo-umps, right? And the way that I think it makes the most sense is to say, have them wear a Bluetooth and just sort of have it be like, so there's actually an umpire back there, but then once the pitch is thrown, they say strike or ball, and then the umpire just says it. But they also have the opportunity to overrule it if they want to. So they could say because apparently we can't get it perfect. So if there's a pitch that the umpire thinks should have been a strike, but it's still the thing said ball, but the umpire's pretty sure it was a strike, they can still overrule it and say strike.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly. I don't know if it's going to be a perfect system. Obviously that was the conversation after it. But
hard to get work. Well, how about this? How about just put good umpires into playoffs? What are we doing with this? If there's a good umpire, we don't care that much. No one really complains when there's 1 or 2 bad calls, unless it's in a really pivotal moment. Just how about, hey, the best umpires get the playoffs? Why is this so difficult?
Yeah, I don't know what Laz Diaz was doing out there. It made no sense.
Right.
I don't know why Joe West keeps getting a lot of these games too. There's just some of these guys. It's I really don't get it when people understand that a bad umpire is officiating a game. It just ruins the whole vibe of the game. Joe Higashi, what is going on here, man? Ask a Red Sox fan who should be president. They'll say Matt Damon. Best movie ever, The Departed. That is a great movie. Also love Ben Affleck. Okay, I'm not going to read the rest of that.
Yeah, I think it's making jokes about the Boston accent, I believe is what's happening there.
Well, it sure is interesting. He also says go Braves, which were previously a Boston franchise. So fun fact. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens in Houston. I think it'll be a, interesting final 2 games. We got a pretty good sale game, just couldn't get it done tonight. It seems like the offense has finally cooled off.
Yeah, I mean that's the big. I mean, and again, Framber is just he's incredible. I mean, what he was able to do tonight. I mean, that's just I remember he was incredible in the Rays series. I also like this comment from a minute ago. Thanks, baseball sucks. The Washington football team. I thought that was funny. So it's not everyone baseball fan. Also, overlap 618 coming in late. Surprise, surprise. I'm back in this thing of my voice. Thank you. Overlap. We do appreciate it. Yeah. I like the idea of just overlap just being some billionaire who just constantly donates to us.
Hey, if he wants to fund the podcast, feel free, man.
Yes. Maybe we'll do some advertising or something for Overlap 618. Not a product, just for the account Overlap 618. But yeah, I mean, listen, Fun playoffs. I didn't think I was going to watch much baseball. I had a quick turnaround. I think winning a couple championships kind of makes the losses not sting as much.
Oh boy, here we go.
I cannot even bring it up because I have to pretend like it didn't happen. That's how I
No,
feel.
you're right. You're right.
Mm,
No, it's definitely true. So, I mean, it's been fun playoff series. This Dodgers Braves one has been great. All of
hmm
them basically come down to the end. So I think it's been really cool to see it out.
Yes. So all I can say is thank God for Bitcoin. Okay, Bitcoin millionaire overlap 618. I guess that's what it is. Yeah, it's been very fun. I mean, Braves. Uh, do you care about the NL series at all? Are you hoping for the Braves because that's probably the easier matchup, or do you care?
I don't really care who wins. I'm
hmm
interested in the series. Obviously, I mean, I think anyone would match up better with the Braves.
hmm
Um,
Right.
but um, you know, we'll see what happens. I think that there's going to be a pretty good series either way. It's just crazy that the Dodgers basically go down 2-0, and I'm looking at it like, yeah, well, they got 3 home games.
hmm
Bueller and Urias are pitching. They're probably going to win too, if not all three.
Yeah, I mean, I was convinced like, oh, Atlanta's going to win. They blew that game 3. It's like, of course, Atlanta would blow that game. Atlanta up 5-2 now, but again, we'll see. It's Atlanta sports.
Yeah. Poor Atlanta.
Yes, exactly. I think it would be fun to see a Dodgers Astros World Series. Get the rematch after 2017, the revenge. I think that would be fun.
I could see it.
hmm
Um, you know,
Obviously, that's not what you're hoping for, but
yeah, I mean, at this point though, it kind of seems like it might be heading that way. We'll see what happens with this
yeah.
series. I mean, it's going to be really hard to win 2 games in Houston.
Yeah, it should be tough, should be fun. So that is our show. Thanks for sticking with us through the baseball portion as well. Always fun. Kyle, any final thoughts before we head out?
Looking forward to week 7. Looking forward to the U.S. Grand Prix in Austin. That's going to be fun stuff too.
Okay.
Got a lot going on this weekend. We got basketball back. We got baseball playoffs. Lots happening.
Yeah, hockey's back as well, Kyle. How you feeling about your Bruins?
Undefeated until tonight. It looked like we were losing to the Flyers. So, I'm interested to see the depth of this team. But I think we got some decent dudes still. So I think we'll be good.
Yeah, Lightning not much depth. Lightning we have great players, but we're about as deep as a pool as a kiddie pool.
Yeah, I mean, the bill was finally due on those Stanley Cups, right?
Yeah,
So
we're playing with house money at this point. I've also had to start rooting for Corey Perry. That's been weird. It's been an
yeah.
odd thing, but yeah, it's been fun. All right. Thanks to everyone again for watching or listening. We appreciate it. And until next time, have a good one.
Peace.
Kyle, where's my shout out for the homies? No shout out from Kyle.